Whoa! It's a YouTube stream from Launders. When does that ever happen? It must be Christmas. Must be Christmas. It might be Christmas for the next couple of months, every single day, because CS2 is coming out tomorrow. Deleting CS:GO. Did you hear about it? It's all over the news. But before they delete CS:GO, we've got a special live stream with our four esteemed guests. Yes, I call myself esteemed because we're going to be talking about gaming peripherals. That's why I've gathered everybody here today. Of course, me, Launders, the A-Zone brand ambassador, who will be unbiased about headphones. Maui, the best co-streamer of ESL Pro League on CSGO. I saw you on like the front page actually on Twitch when I was looking for, maybe it was my personal recommendeds, but Twitch knows what I want to watch. Maui's been killing it on the co-streams. We've got more of that. Semphis, the biggest CSGO player of all time. I think he was actually the biggest CSGO player before, but now he's the strongest and biggest as well, because he was always a giant, 6'6". And then Frequency, the master of Windows. This is something I always say. Special shout out to Frequency. If you're going to spend $3,000 to build an access PC, spend an extra $100, $200 or whatever Frequency charges. He's kind of Hollywood now, so he might charge a little bit more. But to make your PC actually take off, okay? Because on it, Windows has so much garbage in it that people like Frequency are absolutely necessary in today's age. So everybody, welcome to the show. We, of course, have been playing Counter-Strike for 20 years. We have used every mouse, keyboard, headphone, and graphics card generation, all NVIDIA probably, since the beginning of time. And we have a lot of opinions and stories to talk about.
That's not even an exaggeration.
Yes,
actually,
yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah. I was like having a conversation the other day with like other people about what the GOAT GeForce card was. And I was like, the 1660 Ti was like where it was at. And the 1080 Ti would probably hold up even today. But okay, today we've got a lot of graphics, a lot of stuff to show you guys. We're going to have pro players tier lists. Pro players gear. We're going to have a survey, which we can take a look at in the next couple seconds, where A-Zone asked everybody what their next gaming upgrade would be. So it's a survey. It's a survey that asked a bunch of players, most of them were CSGO players, what their next upgrade would be. Here is a tier list from those results. I think there were something like 400 or so contributors. The viewers at home. Well, everyone who did the survey, right? This is the tier list that they have completed together. I don't think they did a very good job, guys. What do you think?
It's pretty bad. It's It's actually really bad.
It's actually okay. It's fine.
It's fine.
I think it's fine. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the top passes like CPU, GPU, this is what you get with good frames. The monitor you're gonna see like good hertz, feeling smooth. I mean, the headset is not debatable. I think the mouse is more important. You gotta shoot the headset with a good mouse.
For me, it depended on like how good the rest of your stuff is. Like, is your computer trash?
Yeah.
Or is it like all right? Because like if I get like decent frames, then I would rank like something like a mouse a lot higher. Whereas if I have terrible frames, then I'd probably think that like getting like your frames up is probably be more beneficial. But
yeah, the only argument for me, the thing that's really weird right off the bat is the CPU and GPU being like in the same tier, because this is for CS:GO, and anybody who knows the Source engine, whether or not you're a math wizard, knows that your CPU is giving you more frames than your GPU. And
That's true.
Frequency, is that true even in CS2 that you want a stronger CPU than you do a GPU? Like, it's more important?
Well, you want a good CPU anyway, so if you can get the best CPU, just go for it. But in CS2, Source 2 engines just utilize more of your GPU, so you're going to see up to 95% of GPU usage, which is pretty good. Now in CSGO, that doesn't happen, that can happen, that's impossible to happen. So either way, you need a really good CPU. If you can afford the latest one, just go get it. But even with a mid-range CPU, CSGO or CS2 is going to be just fine, actually.
Computers are built in the image of humans, in the sense that CPUs are our brains, GPUs are our eyes, and all our peripherals are ways
Basically,
for us to sort of to
Which one's biceps?
Semphis, which one's biceps?
Sorry, I was responding to someone in the chat. That was my bad.
Which peripheral is biceps? Or which is back? Which is your back?
The back's the one that's got to do with the heavy lifting, right? So that's got to be like your CPU.
Yeah,
I
probably.
think.
Okay.
Like your CPU is definitely carrying it, at least in CS:GO, because I feel like other games like the GPU is a lot stronger, like
But the
or
thing
more
is-
important.
So I think that's why I have issue with it CPU being S tier, because like we all have backs. Like, so I was assuming we had a baseline level of back. So that's why I wasn't rating CPU super high. And maybe I was making us too strong of an assumption here that I'm getting, say, 100 to 200 frames with any CPU, whereas I think some people are probably ranking CPU and GPU high because they probably think that, you know, these games are just, or their computers themselves are not actually even getting 150 frames. So yeah, I guess at the end of the day, those can be important. I can see where people come from. It's not the world I live in, though.
So really quick, like what do you guys consider like low frames? Like what would be like you're gonna upgrade before getting a mouse or something? Like for me, under 300 frames, I start feeling it. Like when it starts dropping to like the 250 range, 200, I start feeling like my mouse no longer is responding to my hand like quick enough for me personally. Whereas I've heard other people, they're like, oh, 250 is fine.
Yeah, under 250 is where it's bad for me. 250 and above is fine for me.
Okay, I've got a counter though. Would you rather have like 250 constant or 300 to 400 like with a lot of sort of variation or
Constant.
I think constant, honestly,
all the way
but
here, baby.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like in Source Engine, the way it feels, of course, is that if you have consistent frames, as long as it's above your hertz, I think that's the key thing. And you don't. And then the 300 is nice because we're at 360 hertz monitors, but let's say a lot of people are still at 144 or 200, probably on the higher end, and then a few percentage have moved up to 360. You just want to stay well above 240 in terms of your frames. Frequency, could you explain your hertz on your monitor versus your frames in game and why you want to have more?
Well, you need to have more frames. For example, if you have a 144 hertz monitor, you need to have above 104 frames because your game is going to be feeling way smoother. You're going to have less input lag, which is like insane. I mean, who doesn't know about that? It is super important because if you drop below like 144 FPS or if your monitor is 144 hertz and you drop below that, your game is going to be feeling way like it's unstable. It's going to be super sluggish. It's going to be really laggy, and you don't need that. So the more hertz you have and the more FPS you have, and if you can maintain the good frame rate above your refresh rate, it's going to be the best of the best. Well, in CSGO, you can do that. It's super easy. And in CS2 as well, it is quite achievable with a new Source 2 optimization. It's super good. It's very nice.
Frequency, do you know the numbers? I can't remember them off the top of my head. It's something like 60 hertz is like 8 ms delay, and then you go to 144 hertz and it's like 4 ms delay, and then and then you go from 144 to 240, and the difference is noticeable. But I don't know if you guys remember, but when I went to 240, I originally didn't really notice a huge difference going to 240, but going back down to 144, and you're like, oh, okay, this is choppy.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people, I don't personally have a 360 hertz monitor, but I've heard that the difference is a lot less noticeable the higher you go. Like once you start going 240 to 360, it's kind of like, sure, it's kind of like a bonus, right?
Okay. I'm going to put a pin in that because we're going to actually go through one at a time. So we're going to start off with mice. But before we do that, after a few categories, we're going to do a giveaway for a pair of A-Stone headphones. I talk about them every single day in my YouTube videos. You say they're too expensive for you. Well, now they're free. Okay, motherfuckers. So you can get one if you just wait. But first, we're going to go through each of the different peripherals, starting off with the mice, and then talk about our personal loadouts, the tier list that we have created, that we've seen, what the pros use is another thing we're going to look at, and Frequency is going to hit us with a pro tip at the end of each category. So when it comes to the discussion about mouses, I want to say, what for you is the most important feature characteristic of a mouse? Is it the scroll wheel? Is it the mouse weight, which is a popular thing these days? Is it how light the clicks are? Is it the sensor? Is it the shape, which is something that's really personal to each person? Maui, I'll start with you.
Shape. And I've made that clear with the mouse that I've been using, because I'm using a mouse that is probably behind in almost all tech, but I just simply like the shape. I'm using the Logitech MX518 Legendary Edition, because I've literally been using the same mouse shape for over 10 years now. I was using MX518 original, G5, G500, G500S, then I went back to the legacy MX518 because I've tried out a ton of mice, and I know that if I use this exact shape, I don't even need to warm up and I can drop 20 kills in a FACEIT game. Like that to me is the biggest difference. And I just know that I'm not going to actually probably invest the amount of time, like 100 hours with aim training to get good with other mice that, yes, they're probably better in terms of performance and certain key aspects like weight or like the sensor or things like that. But if it doesn't feel the way I want it to feel, then my aim's not going to be as good. And at the end of the day, I just want precision with my pure hand moving the way I want it to.
As someone who has I have quite a big grip, and so I've actually found it very difficult to find a mouse that has the right shape or big enough in general for me. So I've had very few options. Right now, I'm using the EC2 CW, which is good enough in terms of size. Semphis, how do you feel about shape, or what is your sort of most important characteristic of a mouse?
Honestly, I kind of agree with like Maui in that sense of the shape being the most important. I think as long as you have a baseline sensor, it's not like glitching out on you, like flying up at the sky or something. Like the original Rival from SteelSeries used to. I love the shape, but if you swipe too fast, you just look into the sky and you can't, at a high level, you can't be having that. But for me, it would just be like the shape. And once you have a shape, then like hopefully the sensor is good enough, and hopefully the company will like expand and kind of like what they did with Razer with Death Adders. They always have a new version going forward. That's awesome. Same with like Zowie. They slowly, incrementally improve the sensors, go wireless, blah, blah, blah. So that's always nice. But yeah, I definitely think the shape is the most important. And then second for me is weight. And I used to always want it lighter, but now I find just for me, once you start going under like 65 grams, it's almost too light. Like I had a mouse that was like 50 grams and it was like hovering off my desk while I was just like like when I'm gripping it, it's like coming like off. Like it's just, it doesn't feel like there's anything even in your hand. So yeah, like you got these mice coming up that are like 30 grams and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know if that's like a benefit anymore, or it's just like a marketing gimmick. But yeah.
Before we go to you, Frequency, I want to talk about that a little bit more, because we are at a point with mice where it's like, first of all, DPIs have gotten completely outrageous, and we're forgetting that people are humans. Like actually having a low DPI, let's say in Counter-Strike, it's a game where like being ultra precise actually isn't that important compared to like sometimes having a smooth flick, or making up for the fact that you might not flick perfectly, in a horizontal line. So 400, 800 DPI might preferentially feel better for you. But if you look at people who don't play Counter-Strike, review mice and stuff like that, sometimes they'll just say like more is better, like higher DPI, more accuracy, more precision. But that's certainly something that you get diminishing returns from.
It
I give an
depends,
example of just like, if you look at Guardian in his prime, he used the Kinzu V1. It had positive acceleration and angle prediction on it. So when you go left or right, it would draw like a straight line, like it forces your mouse to kind of stay level. So he's using a mouse with prediction in its aiming, and it has positive accel. For anyone that doesn't know what positive accel means, that means the faster you move your mouse, the quicker it goes. But it's built into the hardware of the mouse, so it's consistent. It's not like using accel within a game, which a lot of times can be reliant on your frames or hertz of your monitor, stuff like that. So I actually used the Kinzu V1, so did Force and a couple other pros, but eventually it got kind of phased out, right? But it was a good mouse. But my point is that this guy was the best opera in the world for a year or two, and really solid after there with a pretty terrible mouse, right? Like honestly, from a technical standpoint, you would not pick that as your go-to if you had a choice. But he obviously just got really good with it. And you can go with more recent examples of like someone like Stavin, who used an EC2A for a long time, and then he switched from EC2 W, the wireless one, and he didn't get any better or worse. He pretty much stayed exactly the same. And I think like a lot of people, they use peripherals as kind of like a crutch, like, oh, if I had that or I had this, like I'd be better. Like, sure, it might help marginally, but you're not like doubling your skill because you got a new mouse,
I always say if Nico doubled his sense, he'd be twice as good, but it's obviously a joke. I just want to believe it's true. And yeah, the Kinzu, the cult of Kinzu, I should say, was like pretty big at one point, even though there was this built-in Excel. And yes, there is a difference. I love that you pointed that out between mouse Excel that you have in Windows and a good mouse acceleration, because there's a lot of great Quake players that used acceleration to like during their primes as well. It was just heresy and Counter-Strike. Frequency, what about you?
I'll quickly note that Calyx and Xantares both still use Excel in CS.
They probably forgot about it, actually, to be honest. I think they got used to it. They forgot about it and they just use it. It's super rare that you see people use mouse acceleration. It's like, it's super awkward for me, but either way, like in my opinion, shape is king. I don't care what anybody says.
There you go.
Like, I mean, Zhao Yimai still use the 3360, 66 or 3060. Like, you know how old this is? I don't even remember. It's like older than me. And it's amazing. The shape is king, guys. I don't care about the sensor, man. If I can shoot good with this, I'm just gonna use it. I don't care like how old the sensor is. If I like it, I'm get used to it. I'm gonna use it, man. I don't care.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Super
that's
easy.
you're using the Death Adder, which this Death Adder, in terms of like its sensor, people are saying it's like the best that we've ever seen with
Super
whatever
responsive.
combination. Yeah, and I've tried them, and they definitely feel excellent. Oh, there we go. So obviously you've had a long history with Logitech, but you've got a few different mice on the table there, Corey.
Yeah, shout out to the Razer guy. He gave it to me when I was at the IM.
Shout out to Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy Akuma.
Yeah, he gave me one of them.
Yeah.
It's a nice mouse, honestly.
It is.
Sometimes I have like 3 mice on my desk and I just like alternate through them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the mice weight. Oh yeah, maybe we could take a look at the what the pro players are using from pro settings. They've kind of aggregated the top mice in terms of choices. Now, just in case you're a viewer who's watching this and you're like sort of casual or just learning like what I should use, some of these mice are used because the teams have contracts. That's not always the case with mice, though. I think I have a suspicion like the G Pro, for example, would probably still be a top mouse, even though a lot of teams are sponsored by Logitech. But just so you're aware, some of these mice, they've been introduced to players because of sponsorships, although they are all very good.
The G Pro is super light, man. It's like a laptop mouse. I bought it and I sold it the next day to my friend. It's so man, I have big hands. Like imagine I've been using the G403, the Logitech mouse for like 9 years. I bought like 10 of them. Well, they all broke down within 2 months, but that's another story. The mouse is super heavy, but the shape is so good. That's why I used it for so long. But the G Pro X is like good technology. Even Simple use it, I think. Is Simple Nico? I don't remember.
But Simple actually, I think he helped make it. So he had a special contract with Logitech so that he had to for a while. I think he was just lucky that they ended up making it good.
It's super accurate, but it's so light, man. I can't use it. My aim was like going all over the place. I couldn't use it. It was so light.
Yeah, that's a weird thing as well, because everyone's telling you these days, like, why would you want it to be heavier when you could put the mouse exactly where you want to be? It's like an extension of your arm. But in reality, you don't have to buy into that, guys. You can use a mouse that's a little bit heavier if it's comfortable for you. If it has the right shape, that's always going to be paramount. Some people, like me, for example, I prefer ergo mice, and I can't use all ergo mice. But like a Kinzu, for example, I couldn't use. That was an ambi mouse, and there's a few that are like that are not as good for you. But you've got to go into the store and try them. And I think you got to put your hand on them. You got to make some friends, go to their houses, try their mice. Some people have a bigger budget and they can actually just buy them. But I think ultimately you're not going to find the right mouse from you just from watching other people use it. I think that's a really key thing.
You got to spend
and if you
some
live
money,
in an
man.
area, if you live in an area where you can't test mice, or you're just like a country that doesn't have a lot of options or whatever, you can always, if possible, you can order off like Amazon and stuff and just return them as well. Like try them for a couple days and return them. Because like I understand when, if you're 17, 18, $100, $150, $200 on 5 mice is a lot of money. That's like $1,000. So like I totally understand like not being able to try every mouse. So that's one option that you have.
Just try not to get banned. I have a friend or two. Okay, so all right. So to round out this conversation, we're going to look at. So we've all created tier lists for our peripherals and which we think are the best in what category, and we had the viewer one, which was submitted with a survey. Now we have ours to reveal where we've put mice on our tier list. Let's take a look at that. And wow, like magic, of course, you could hear the shilling from all of us talking about how great mice are and everything. Yes, at the end of the day, it is a point and click adventure, right? That's the famous Dazed quote, and it's very true. Your mouse is it's imperative to have a really good one that feels comfortable. You can get away with a lot of other. You can get away with kind of saving money in other places, but it's not really about buying the most expensive mouse. But again, it's about finding the one that has the right shape for you. When you get that, that's when you get global elite, guys. So okay, so that's going to be mouse done with. We're going to now frequency. We've got so frequency on the show again. For those of you just tuning in, frequency is a Windows connoisseur. Okay, frequency.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to know. Should we upgrade to Windows 11? I'm still on Windows 10. I'm very happy.
If it works, don't change it, man. The good old saying: you like it, it's working, you're happy, you don't crash, you don't stir, you don't have frame drops. Don't change it, man. Like you want to have like more adventures or something, just don't change it. I would still use Windows 10, but I upgraded to 11. I kind of started to like them, but if I could go back to 10, I would do it. Yeah.
Okay.
I
All
would.
right. Okay. So we've got you to come in at the end of each category here to talk about a pro tip. So what pro tip do you have for mice, finding a mouse, using a mouse?
Well, it's not really a pro tip, but your personal preference. As I said before, guys, shape is king. If you can test many mice, or you go to your friends and test their mice, that will be super good. But it's nothing really special. I mean, you can debate about the sensor. New sensors are better, more precise, super good. But even the weight, it all comes down to personal preference, except the sensor. I mean, you can argue that. Nothing really specific, to be honest. The same with the keyboard as well. It's your personal preference. You can play very well with a $15 keyboard. I mean, it's not optimal. Your finger's gonna hurt, but still you're gonna play good. Now I
Okay.
use like the Apex Pro, which is like, it's expensive, but it's really good. It's super responsive. But you know, even with older keyboards, if you are used to them, just don't change it. Like honestly, don't need to spend more money on hardware if you like something, even if it's old.
That's very good advice. And again, it's not always about money. In certain cases, at the end of the day, a lot of the great mice are getting up there now. I think when we were younger, mice were in general just very cheap. I think in relation to other things. Now, I think if you walk into Canada Computers or Fry's or whatever
Best
store
Buy.
you have in Greece, then to buy a mouse, everything's like in the upwards of $200 range, which it's getting up there now. But
It's a
we're going to
gimmick,
move
man. It's
on
marketing
now.
gimmicks.
It's a marketing gimmick. So-
Gimmicks.
yeah, put your hand on them. I'm sure you'll know. So now we're going to move on to mouse pad, which I wanted to have these two side by side because even though, again, a mouse pad isn't always going to be expensive, in fact, can be very cheap, it's so important to complement how your mouse feels, right? It's
Absolutely.
something where your mouse pad has different weights. It has different textures. You might have some of the add-ons that are nice, like a rubber bottom, so that your mouse pad doesn't slide all the way around. It has different sizes, which actually matter depending on how much of your arm is on the table, for example. Some people aim with their mouse in the top right corner of their mouse pad, but their mouse pad's not tall enough. So it can come down to desk space. It can come down to friction. What would you guys say is the most important characteristic of a mouse pad? Maui, we'll start with you again.
Well, I think that the way that it interacts with the skates or glides on your mouse has to feel right. So I personally use an artisan pad that I just think the amount of friction it creates with my MX518, it just feels very precise. I would also say that something that I would take into account with mouse pads is that portability has been something because of how we have to travel so much that as much as sometimes I would want to have a really big mouse pad that would just cover such a huge part of my space, I travel with my mouse pad so much, so I need to be able to roll it up. So I do like hard pad. I did like hard pads for a brief amount of time, but I've pretty much I can't really use that anymore now that I'm traveling for work all the time. So bringing a mouse pad with me that I can roll up is something that I also find pretty valuable, and roll up, but not also disintegrate, because sometimes when you roll certain pads up, it doesn't really unroll very well. So I found that the artisan has been pretty good at that, although it sometimes can create little divots. So it's kind of just like durability, right size. But I'd say the primary thing for me is the friction and feeling I get with my personal mouse on it.
Oh yeah, and so for your mouse pad specifically, are you leaning towards more control or speed?
Control.
Yeah.
Definitely control. With a game like CS, I think you would want accuracy over just being able to whip it around as much as possible.
Oh, would you fight him on that, Semphis? Do you think there's an argument for speed?
I just think it's so preference when it comes to like mouse pads and everything speed control, but I'm kind of more in the middle, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
With your mouse pad, what with the pad that you're currently using? I actually use the Gigantus V2. That was my favorite mouse pad actually, until I used the Vaxi Zygen. But they're both very close. And I think one thing for sure is also different mouse pads for different humidities, I think, is another key
Absolutely.
thing.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's actually true.
Yeah, you can get one that's your mouse will sink in, or it doesn't do well if you don't have like central air conditioning, which I don't hang out with people who don't have central air conditioning. And that means I don't hang out with people in Europe. But
Yeah, Europeans.
Frequency sweating over there.
Dude, no, I have an AC unit. Dude, in Greece it's fine, but if you go to Italy or France, then that's a problem. Yeah. But we have AC, it's fine here, trust me.
Okay. And how's that GameSense radar treating you?
It's actually the best mouse pad I have ever used. Like, no, shout out to them, to be honest. I bought it for like $20. I have switched maybe, I don't even know how many mouse pads, man, like 15, 20 mouse pads.
Yeah, I have like
Especially
a million mouse pads.
Man, the Zayu ones, I mean, I'm sorry, but they're so bad. You use them for like a week and then the mouse just sinks in the pad because of humidity. Like your cursor loses track. It feels so muddy and like squishy. I don't know how to say it, but this pad is actually insane. It's actually very good.
Okay.
So kudos to them. It's a pretty good choice. GameSense Radar,
honestly-
boys, use it.
Honestly, my opinion with mouse pads is kind of like it's important. Like I would rate it in the middle somewhere, but like the quality and which one is irrelevant, kind of, to me. It's just like, can you find a mouse pad that you like? Use that one. Like there, it's not like a mouse where there's some like hardware inside or whatever. It's just like anything that you get on with and you do well with, use that one. If it's a Hello Kitty mouse pad that costs $5 on Amazon, like use it. It doesn't matter. Like, you know, like you're not going to get better because you got like a Logitech or a SteelSeries or something, you know.
On Amazon, they have that one that's like the anime girl and the boobs are like the wrist rest. You can use that and still have friends. So why don't we go ahead and look at where mousepad lands on our tier list? Okay. And there's even some love there for hardpad users, Maui. We support hardpad users.
I mean, I haven't used a hard pad for over 10 years, but I remember, what was it? SteelSeries had one back in the day and trying it out. And I thought the movement on it was pretty good, but I think that was when I was probably prioritizing speed over control. And now I'm more of I guess I care more about control than anything else. But I mean, with the ranking here, I think it's kind of what more or less Semphis said, with the fact that you don't need, there's no tech that's going to come out for mouse pads anytime soon that I feel like is going to be a game changer. Like if it has decent amounts of friction, if I can put it on my desk, that's it. Like as long as it's just keeping my mouse on top of it.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Some people might have not remembered, but like when you say tech, they tried that shit in like 2009, 2011 area. Like SteelSeries came out with this thing that was called like a SteelSeries Dot. It was like this metal thing, and it came out. It was kind of like a girl's little thing that you put like mascara on your eyes, kind of like, you know, those little like
the
little
like tiny makeup brush thing.
Yeah, tiny little makeup brush thing.
Yeah,
and it had this like weird like solution in there, and you put it on your mouse feet, and it was supposed to like make it super fast. Yeah, and Jordan used it. Nothing actually used it.
He loved hard pads too.
Yeah, it worked really well on hard pads and like glass mouse pads. And if people didn't remember, it was originally made for the metal mouse pad that SteelSeries had. And I've tried the metal and the glass. I still think glass is probably the fastest I've ever used. And it's just impractical for CS. Like you can't stop. Like you can't stop on their head. Like you'll get to their body so fast, like for Quake and games like that, maybe. But yeah, no, they tried some of that stuff, but it's all gimmicks and like maybe one person. Like Jordan was like the only person that I knew.
Oh my god, yeah. And he had a new one every event, I remember.
Yeah.
Like, that was his thing. And he would put it on top of soft mouse pads, right? He would put that underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't know that. And yeah, SteelSeries, the reason they're called SteelSeries is because they started with the metal pads, right? That's what happened. And then they pivoted and made the QCK, and that became the most popular soft pad. And that's where they made all their money. I think it was a long time ago, but yeah. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at what the pro players are using in terms of top mouse pads, because that's also an interesting conversation. And there it is. The SteelSeries QCK Heavy is number one. That's obviously the
GOAT.
QCK, a little bit thicker. You say it's a GOAT. for me, it's not big enough, Semphis. It's just not. It's just not enough surface area.
You need bigger than the.
I
fucking
love a
heavy?
big motherfucking mouse pad, dude. I want that
Alright.
mouse pad everywhere. Except I don't like desk pads. I just want a big square.
That's fair. I mean, it would be kind of cool if you could get one that like a heavy that was just taller. I guess like it went up higher. Because I don't personally need more left or right. Like
Yeah, me neither.
for me at least. But I think a lot of people use. I think QCK heavies just rank so high because it was cheap, it was consistent, it's been around forever. So like I used it for so long, and even when I got sponsored by other companies and I had to switch, it was hard to switch because I was just so used to that like thick, cloudy feeling. Like anyone that's used a heavy kind of knows what I mean. It kind of sinks in like a little bit compared to some of the other pads.
All right, I've got a problem with mouse pads like that. Okay, here's my problem. One of the greatest inventions of modern mouse pad innovations, I should say, are having stitched edges, because
I hate them.
I don't like that too.
Well,
man.
yeah,
I don't
QCK
like
heavies, they just be cutting your wrists for you. Okay, so new mouse pads, rubber bottom, stitch edges. I think that's a nice advancement.
Yeah, I have that on the Artisan here. I don't. The thing is, it's good when you're resting your wrist on it, but I don't find myself. I put my mouse right in the center of my mouse pad, so I'm not really hitting edges ever. So I think if people are hitting the edges often, that would probably be a problem for me. But I find myself never ever doing that.
I just don't like how it feels on my arm. That's literally like I don't like how it's like a little ridge. Like although I've heard that some of the new companies are making them lower, like the stitching isn't. It's not as noticeable, but
it's pretty low. It's pretty low on the Artisan. It definitely doesn't bump up very much. It's super slight. Yeah. I can't really. I have so much gear on my mouse pad right now that I can't. Let me see if I can even do this. I'll try to show it. Let's see. Does this show well?
Oh, that's a nice color though. I like that.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's kind of like really slight. Like you can.
Yeah, I can see it's a very very small. Yeah,
very small ridge with rubber bottom, of course. Yeah,
but
that's fast though, Maui, right? I think that's the fast one. This one is a fast pad.
It's got a decent amount of friction. Do you hear this?
This is Contura.
Yeah, you're just so strong these days, Maui. You can't even notice when you've got such a fast.
I think
pad.
it glides really well with my mouse skates. That's all. So.
Okay. All right, so why don't we go ahead and take a look at that survey tier list again, just to see what everybody else had put here. Mouse pads didn't even make the cut. Oh yeah, we didn't even survey for mouse pads. I remember that. So
people in the chat, what mouse pad do you use, and do you have it? Do you have your arm high up or low up on your desk?
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, I think it was like Modern Astralis. When you mentioned that you had your mouse right in the middle of your mouse pad, I just thought Modern Astralis instantly, because they all seem to agree on how to sit and where to put their mice. That no one had some like weird, strange posture. There was no like Tessa sitting sideways, no like Skadoodle like on an angle or anything like that. Everybody's like mouse in the middle, hand perfect for every table.
Yeah, that's how it should be. You should find consistency. I don't know, having these weird little like, if you can break those kind of bad habits, I think that provides you a lot more value.
Yeah. Frequency. We also have you to talk about a pro tip. If you didn't already say it here for mouse pads, what can you tell the people about how to pick a good mouse pad?
Basically, reviews, actually. I would watch a lot of reviews, maybe House Gaming or Portsy. They're pretty good at the job. So when it comes down to things like this, mouse pads are like super replaceable, and you just need to try, honestly. Like you can see like a mouse pad online, or even from a review, you can like see, okay, it's good, I'm gonna try it, but you need to try it. So it basically comes down to what you're comfortable with. So that's why I tried like 15 different mouse pads. I mean, you guys have more, but you need to play around with it a bit. It's you gotta spend some money, but that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, if you can find a mouse pad that's like humidity resistant, just get it, man. Like I have serious problem with like humidity. I'm living close to the sea. It's like super annoying. So yeah, mine one does the job very well. So James' Redder, 100% super good, guys.
I think mouse pads, they don't cost much all the time, but I think they can make your mouse feel different. So if you've got a mouse you really like, you want that to feel the way you want it to feel. So those slight differences can matter, but at least you've got a little bit more leeway with my mouse pads, I'd say, for sure. Like if you say you want a good control pad, and as Frequency mentioned, you see a well-reviewed good control pad, you're probably going to get a correct feeling overall. And then you can look for the other stuff if you want. All right, so that's it for mouse pads. We've got two more categories, and then we'll do the giveaway for the Ason Aspire headphones. Well, with keyboards, this should be maybe not a contentious one. I think we all landed similarly in terms of how we feel about keyboards, but it's been a very interesting world with keyboards because there have been some advancements. There are great keyboards out there. There's everything from optical, analog switches. Cherry MX was like a revelation with mechanical keyboards, and you can spend so much money on keyboards to, from spending a couple $100 to getting, the 50 million RGB with N key rollover and no ghosting and perfect like instant release response times with the wooting and stuff like that. But I think we all sort of land in a similar place where it's a crappy membrane keyboard could actually be serviceable to be good at Counter-Strike. And if you get a great keyboard, you might not get that much out of it compared to another thing in your computer that you would upgrade. Do you mirror that sentiment, Maui?
With keyboards, it's kind of in a way the last thing I care about carrying with me when I'm on the road, compared to some of the other peripherals which you can actually control, like mouse pad, headset. Just because with keyboards, sure, precise movement does necessitate a better keyboard. Like I wouldn't be able to use a membrane keyboard necessarily, but once it gets to a certain level in terms of mechanical, like if it's Cherry MX Browns versus Gatoron Browns versus like the Razer switches, I can feasibly adjust to any of those relatively quickly. And after a certain point of quality, it does come down to preference for me, which is why I think it's a little bit more replaceable. Whereas some of the other things that we've already reviewed, like mouse, if it's not the exact shape I want, I have a pretty hard time adjusting easily.
Keyboard's pretty versatile. Semphis, or do you have any hot take on this with keyboards, or do you stand in the same place?
I'm pretty similar, honestly. I mean, for me, it's like, would I want a good keyboard? Yes. Like I do like using blue switches. I like the clickier the better. So like brown or blue. I generally stick with brown just because people complain about the clicky sounds of the blues. But
your girlfriend, right?
Yeah, she's pretty close to me. But like, it's one of those things that if I had to use a membrane keyboard, it would be like I'd much rather use the worst keyboard than have any of my other gear be bad. Because I feel like I could be, as long as I can have like WASD and jump, like I feel like I still can play well. Maybe I can't do as cool B hops or that's a bad example because
like a jiggle
should
peak.
have
a really good jiggle peak, I think needs a decent keyboard for me.
Yeah, or some of the more technical KZ jumps and stuff where I feel like the clicks do matter a little bit more. But like even at high level CS, like there's not that, like your movement really doesn't matter that much. Like.
Unfortunately, like players like Flusha exist where they don't bind any of their nades. They don't have the best peaks in the world, but they were still insane, for a long time or whatever. So there are examples of that for sure.
I actually recently got a wireless keyboard from Razer when I was at the thing. I got it because I'm just coaching now, so it's like a small little one. Like this might not have anything to do with gaming, but super handy for traveling. Like to just put it like in your bag. Like it takes up like a quarter of the space because keyboards are just annoying. I don't know if I would recommend it for playing. I would get the other one, but definitely handy for if you're traveling to work or going to local lands or something,
I will say, I think that the one thing that has shaken up the industry from keyboards for me was Wooting sent me the Wooting 60E recently. And I got to say that this keyboard, like the like 0.1 millimeter release capabilities, and you can customize them to be even lighter if you want, with the full analog motion. As a KZ player, you can actually tell the difference. And I think that right now you've got Steel Series coming through. I think the new Razer keyboards that are coming out also have the same technology to literally copy what Wooting are doing. So if you haven't tried those, I think that's a position where now keyboards, I think, become more relevant because you'll instantly feel your movement actually get better. Your peaks will be a lot better with this keyboard.
I saw Stewie using a Wooting keyboard and he started raging at it, so I have sworn off of Wooting.
You know what people do?
Why?
That's what's bad about that is because they make the release too low. So they think you could just max it out to make it like 0.01 millimeters, but you just need it to be like 1 millimeter. The real magic is in how quickly it releases when you let go of the key. You want that to be instantaneous. Whereas with the actuation point on other keyboards and other keys, it takes long enough that if you're pressing multiple keys very quickly, your movement can get a little bit jumbled. So I think Wooting got famous because of how like how light you can make the key press, but it's actually the release point that's more important, and you can leave
Yeah.
everything on default.
I will say everybody I know that has a Wooting says it's great. I was just trolling a little bit because Stewie's just going to look for external reasons to rage instead of looking at his own gameplay.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Someone clip it, send it to him.
Frequency, what's your take on keyboards?
Well, build quality matters, super important, and actually the sound as well. Now, I don't know if James Bardolph is watching the show, but he's the special guy on the keyboard section. Yeah, he has like everything, but switches matter. It depends on how heavy the switch is. You know, I like my switches soft. I like light keycaps as well. I don't know if you guys know about this, but if you change your keycaps, you know, your keyboard can like be more beautiful, and it will actually feel lighter as well. So it kind of helps with your fingers too. But either way, modern keyboards are so responsive as well. I mean, look at Wooting. Were they the first one to release this technology? I have no idea. I think they were the first ones. That's why they get copied by. Yeah, probably. So actuation point. Nobody really plays with 0.1. Like you can't play. Like it's unplayable. The sweet spot is like 1.2. For me, it's like 1.1. For PUBG, is like very good as well. You know, the lanes are so fast, and especially in CS:GO, if you jiggle pick from banana as your CT, if you jiggle pick banana with low actuation point, like you can't be caught. It's like a cheat. I even posted about this on Twitter. It's like super good. But yeah, that's about it. Build quality is one of the top things for me. You don't want your shit to break. So
I think keyboards is one of those things though. If you spend a lot of money, you get something really fun. Like you get something that's like very nice to use. You get something that's like it just feels great, like the click sensitivity or like red, blues, and browns, whatever you prefer. You can get things that they just look so beautiful. Custom keyboards are just so great to look at. Like it's sort of just as much art as it is function, I think, in your loadout, when it comes to things that you buy. And I think once you reach a point, and people who get into the keyboard community, like James Bardolph, for example, you know, they'll spend into the thousands just to get something that looks cool and also feels great.
Very well.
And sounds great. Yeah. So yeah, we do a lot of typing on our keyboards, so it's nice to have it be comfortable and look good.
I mean,
James, the thing is, keyboards last forever too, as long as you don't spill something on them.
True.
Like they're very like resilient. Like whereas mice break all the time. I feel like whereas you spend money on a quality keyboard, I feel like you're good for like 5 years usually. Like
that's so underrated, man. Like is there a company that actually can't be criticized for their mice breaking? Like it feels like every company has had periods of time where like like people complain about Logitech, Razer, a lot of companies because their mice just give up. I remember Steel came to CS Summit or whatever, and the final mouse guy came there and was like early on, and then he's like, I brought you like 2 of the new final mice. He's like, oh, you only brought me 2? I need like 5 because your mice always break. I just said that
disappointing
in person. Yeah.
One last thing about keyboards and the fact that they are aesthetically pleasing is that beyond that, given that I was James Bardolph's roommate, it is a tactic that you can bring a woman over and show them keyboards. Like that clearly works. So verifiably proven to.
Okay, it's the cure for male loneliness. Actually,
it is one of the many cures for male
light
loneliness.
Up keyboards.
His Tinder profile is just like his keyboard collection. It's not even a picture of him. It's just,
Gator on Gary.
Good, that's good.
Okay, all right.
Cherry
so
Chad.
Okay. So why don't we take a look at where keyboards land on our tier lists and see if they landed softly. Okay. As they pop up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, there we go. And now we've got a little bit of parity at least with keyboards going in a few different spots. Maui's, at B. Semphis hates keyboards. In frequency, the 2 level heads here. And I think that's just sort of what we expect with keyboards again. But I think you can get a good keyboard. I will say there are top KZ players that still use memory and keyboard. So an argument and shout out to those. But in terms of enjoyability, you can go far if you spend a couple extra bucks. So what are the pro players using for their keyboards? Let's go ahead and check pro settings to see what their aggregate score is for all these different top keyboards. A lot of them end up being Logitech. Okay, it's just a split here. But the Wooting, shout out to Wooting because, again, they're like a pretty small company compared to some of these bigger dogs, and they're breaking into the top 5.
I'm really curious. I don't know what all the switches are, and I kind of care more about that sometimes than even what the keyboard is itself. Like, are they using browns on these or blues or reds? Like, I want to know with the keyboards, like, and I guess that's a reason that maybe you could rate keyboards differently. If you're just going to switch out the switches anyways and just put in your favorite Cherry MX Brown or whatever it is, then I feel like they're all fairly replaceable to me, because at the end of the day, I just care about activation and release more than anything generally.
Yeah. Okay.
There are a decent amount of people that use like blues or browns, and I feel like if you average it out, I'd say for this is just from me asking, because obviously I don't have like a database. I'd say most people use reds, on average for pros. Yeah, but I personally don't like red. I rather blue or brown. But
same.
That's generally what I've seen most people use.
Stewie won Boston on brown or on red or black. Sorry, on blue. So
I
was under every color, even
yellow,
some shades.
on orange.
Yeah, the two things that Stewie did, he won Boston using blue keys, and he also won with sleeves on, which is not something that we're going to talk about. But some people say don't use sleeves.
Torzy was wearing NBA shooting sleeves today when he was playing, and he's been playing better since he started wearing them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to have one more here before we go to a giveaway to give away a pair of Azone Aspires. The next category, funnily enough, will be headphones. And we can talk about headphones and what makes them important. Of course, I am the Azone brand ambassador. I started using these headphones because I really love them. They are using them at all the top events right now, like ESL and Blast. And they have really good ANC, and they're having been tested by a lot of players in Denmark. You can tell that they're made by Counter-Strike people. And I think that the big thing with headphones, I guess I'll ask everybody what they feel is the most important, but I would say the big features that come to mind are going to be your ANC, depending on whether or not you like it, whether or not you like open back or closed back, whether or not the headband is comfortable for all day wear. I think that's actually huge. And then of course, how well the thing is EQ'd. I think there's something that people will say is you can EQ your own headphones to try to make them sound better or worse. But I have never been able to EQ headphones to the same degree as really well done ones, like these Azones. HyperX headphones are obviously really great as well. And there are some cans that do stand out. And I think I would say the common ground for us, I'm just going to go out on an assumption and say that headphones are, in Counter-Strike, it's something that if you have bad headphones, you won't really know because you're not hearing footsteps you don't hear. When you have good headphones, then you know when your teammates don't have good headphones. And dying because you have bad sound is one of the least fun ways to go in Counter-Strike. And so I think that's where headsets and good audio is very important. What would you say is a key factor or thing that stands out about headphones for you, Maui?
Directional hearing for CSGO has to be near the top for me, I would say. I mean, fidelity is another thing. I remember SteelSeries headphones were one of the first that actually turned down bass on purpose because they made headphones with the explicit purpose of gaming for FPSs. And that, to me, made a pretty big difference when I shifted early on when I was a young teenager from... God knows, I have Plantronics maybe headphones is what I was using first. And then I got SteelSeries and I was like, okay, I can hear way better now. And a similar thing happened to me when I was playing CSGO, where I also use open back headphones on normal day use. But then I switched to HyperX Cloud 2s and I was like, oh, okay, I'm blowing my eardrums out a little bit here, but I can hear absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. And so all these different factors with comfort, that all matters too, because at the end of the day, I'm not still using Cloud 2s because they just weren't comfortable for me. But when it comes down to it, I want to be able to wear them for long periods of time, and I want to be able to know where everybody's coming from at all times.
Yeah, it sounds so silly, right? But it's like you just want to be able to trust what you hear, and at the end of the day, you only know what you're missing once you get a pair of good cans. Semphis, what are you rocking right now? How do you feel about headphones?
I got the Razer. Whatever they're called, Sharks.
Oh, the Black Sharks.
Black Sharks. Yeah, sorry,
V2?
the Black Sharks. Yeah, the V2s. They're wireless. I've used Logitech's wireless, the HyperX ones, like Corsair. I was sponsored by them for a little while. Honestly, they were all good. I would say that Logitech and Razer I think are a little bit above the other two, but the other two are a lot cheaper. But they're all good. So if you have a budget and you want to try the Corsair, the HyperX you get on sale a lot. They go on sale on Amazon and stores like quite often for a pretty decent price. I just really like them because like I can quickly go to the washroom, still hear my teammates, stuff like that. Like
as a coach, that's really good.
Yeah, no, it's awesome as a coach to just be able to like still hear my players, or like, you know, sometimes they're on an eco round that they can't win in a scrim. I could quickly like grab the package at the door or something and still kind of hear. But obviously that's not really, relevant to playing. But for me, in terms of like actually being good at the game, I really like when they're noise canceling. I just really don't like when I can hear everything around me. I get distracted by like cars and whatever by the street very easily. And I'm not someone that loves to use super high sound in game either. So like obviously sometimes you have to, like if I'm at LAN, I will, right? I'm just going to pump it up. But at home, if I can, I'd rather not like blow my ears out. I'd rather it be a little bit quieter. So I like the sound canceling for that. And then like Maui said, directional sound super important to me, but also bass. Obviously you can now modify with drivers and stuff. The you can kind of put the like levers up and down on
EQ,
all their they got all the options now. But some of the headphones, they won't really give you like, even when you turn the bass down, it's still kind of bassy. I just think it sucks for Counter-Strike because someone shoots an AWP and it's just like like you're like you can't hear anything anymore. Like so I'm really anti-bass. And then just being honest, like most big events, you don't even really use headphones anymore. You're usually using in-ears with helicopter headphones over. So I actually stopped caring about like having the latest state of the art headphones at home, because I was like, well, I'm kind of preparing for LAN as my like main thing. Because like as a pro, when I was active, I was always trying to make my home setup mostly like it would be on LAN, just so that I would transition easier. So I would actually play with in-ears like a week or two before going to an event or something like that. So unfortunately, headphones for pros are probably like not as important as people coming up, because as they're coming up, you're going to want all the advantages you can get and take them if you can. So, you're not going to LANs, 30 times a year. So it doesn't really matter.
Have you your players used the ASON headphones for just the noise canceling at events?
I'm not entirely sure. Were they at some of the events?
Because the RMR, they might have been there. Right?
Yeah, the RMR.
If they were at the
Mexico.
RMR, I didn't use them. I had HyperX wireless ones because I was coaching, but they did. So I have not used them, I guess, unfortunately.
I used them on the spring finals show match. Actually, they were nice.
Yeah, I have a bass story. So like I remember. Sennheiser for me, like in early CSGO days, were like the best. They made the best headphones for CSGO, and they had like the lowest bass response, and it was just the best footsteps overall. And I think that it was before the Game Zeros came out. It was like the 60s Sennheiser 60 HD 60s or something like that, which was the first model. And I remember reading online that you could actually reduce the bass response by taking apart the headphone and putting cotton balls inside of it. And I remember there was one moment where I was on one side of season, the long vent on DE season, where if you could hear the break on the other side, and the headphones I was wearing, I couldn't hear someone do that. And then I did the hack mod where I got like cotton balls and put them in my headphones to reduce the bass response, and I could suddenly hear footsteps from farther away.
Wow.
So like this like an IRL hack to reduce the bass response actually helped.
So check Launder's gear at LAN is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
It's not modified.
For the Sennheisers I'm using right now, I think that the only difference between the 5.58s and the 5.98s, it's like they put a little piece of like tape or something over it at some point. And you're supposed to, if you want to mod it, you just have to pull that out, and you're actually going to have less bass too. So that's a way to. There's like, I think for some, I don't know why people are so into modding Sennheisers to make them even better than they already are, but like, I guess that's actually
track audio files, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's like people are saying the only difference is they just put little pieces of tape or take them out and things like that. I'm like, how is that even? Why do the headphones cost $50 different if it's just that?
Yeah, Frequency. What's your take on?
I should chill. One more thing for wireless headphones is you can also hear cues pop when you're not at your computer, which is really handy. Okay, for all games.
Yeah, if you don't want to get the driblets on the floor running from your bathroom. Frequency.
Right.
What's your take on headphones?
So basically, I've been using Razer headsets, Logitech headsets, but they don't come as close as these bad boys. Watch. You see these ones? They're so
Oh,
small. This costs $35. Best sound and audio positioning you can like ever get. I promise. They're so
What are
good.
those ones?
KZ CZ10 Pro. Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah, that you see on the graphic. They are so light. You don't get any pain, no like ear pain or head pain. So good, but they don't have a microphone. I know you guys want to use microphone in your game. Like, we have like a standalone microphone over here, but super good for your health as well, boys. Just to protect your hearing. Don't overblast the audio. I know it's like important to hear steps, but you don't need to overspend on a headset. I mean, you can get the Azone like super good. You can invest in a good headset, but if you're on a budget, just get in-ears, man. I promise, they're so good. They're so underrated. They're not many
I've
people
actually
know
I haven't had the
actually.
same experience with cheaper in-ears personally. Like I get like the ear pain and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I've never
I do too.
run them for all day wearing. But
Yeah, you should only
So-
wear them when you play, because otherwise, it's in
Oh,
your like
okay.
earlobe. Is it called like an earlobe, like inside the ear?
yeah.
Yes, and it's not that good. Just use them when you play. Super good. It's the best step quality I have like ever heard. It's so good. No,
Okay.
no headset came close to this quality with like
And,
40 bucks or 30
did
bucks.
you guys
so.
ever go through that period of like kind of headphones hurting your ears and like because I used to like when I was younger my ears would hurt but I just kind of like kept playing with them and now they're just kind of like adapted I feel like
yeah.
and like
it's a night to stick
so-
over, and now you're good.
so I don't really get ear pain anymore but I remember there's a while there where like I'd be like like literally it would hurt like you take your headphones off and you're like like same with in-ears like he was saying but I actually sleep with earplugs so I kind of like train myself there so I don't really get the pain from it but I get all my teammates complain about
So are you talking about the physical pain of the clamp, or are you talking about like ear fatigue? Because that's actually
Oh, the clamp, yeah.
The clamp.
Cloud 2s,
yeah.
for example, Cloud 2s would hurt. I would get headaches after really long stretches, which is why I don't really use them anymore.
yeah.
Even if I can hear a little bit better in game than my Sennheisers now.
Yeah, like you want like light cans. Like these are sub 300 grams. You want like cans that are nice. Like your 558s, I think, are pretty light too. They've got a nice band on them. If you're gonna play, like you're playing CS, you're watching this show playing CS:GO. Like you're gaming pretty hard. Probably you want to have headphones that aren't going to like change your head shape when you wear them too long. But then the other
these
thing
actually
that
fit around my ears so like
Oh, yeah,
they
that's
don't cause
nice.
me pain but that can
Yeah.
be hard to fit for everyone.
But another thing that when I went to the ASON headquarters to like talk to them, just like a bunch of audio nerds in there talking about headphones. But I actually retained a lot of information. And one thing that they brought up that we don't really talk about that much in Counter-Strike is like your ear fatigue. So if you're playing for a long period of time, if you're blasting the sound in your ears because your ANC is not good and you have to turn it up too high, or your open backs or whatever, and you're turning them up so loud, if you have the ability to keep it on low and still hear everything, you're going to be able to focus longer audio with your ears over a long period of time for a long day of playing. And we usually think about like how we lose focus visually, but they mentioned that audio, what we were listening to, the exact same effect happens. So very important to have comfortable headphones for your ear health. Obviously, they're on your ears, going right into your brain for 8 hours. You got Russian teammates yelling at you, and you need to make sure that they're like attenuated. You can hear footsteps, and you don't have to try that hard. Just like you would turn down your brightness a little bit on your monitor so that you're not like, or your blue light filter on, so your eyes aren't getting tired. It's the same thing. But I think audio is not as sexy in the sense that you don't really see it, so you don't tinker with it as much. But that's also a really important feature. We've got a tier list for the talent tier list here for headphones to see where everybody's landed. Okay, and I'm the only one who's got it in A. Maui, you're over in B.
Mm-hmm.
Same as keyboards. Wait, is that right?
Yeah, I think I did put it out there. I mean, I just feel like both of these categories, like it's good to have a good version of these, but in some senses, I feel like you could go from one to the other, and I'm not gonna feel like it's the end of the world for me. And I mean, that's kind of why it's like S. I rank these kind of based off of like, if I could just swap it out for anything else, am I still going to be able to perform at the highest level that I can? Which is, I think, why maybe most of us put mouse there, just because it's like, I can't switch my mouse. Like everything else, give me a good one for these two in B tier, but like, don't give me something garbo.
You can adapt to headphones and keyboards pretty fast if they're not optimal, but it's very difficult with like certain things like mouse pads and mice to quickly adapt, I feel like.
Agreed.
So you're gonna put giveaway in the chat, exclamation giveaway in the chat to enter to win a pair of the Acezone Aspires. And I would also like to ask frequency to for a pro tip on headphones, because we didn't actually do that yet.
So as I mentioned before, I prioritize health, and if you combine a light headset with good directional audio, that's the best. And I think Acezone is the pioneer on this topic. As I said in the keyboard tips and the mouse tips as well, it all comes down to your testing. So you might need to spend I don't know how much testing you want to do, but you need to test a couple of headsets and find your optimal one. So if you have the money, if you can invest in a good headset, go with the Acezone. I mean, you can get covered. But if you're on a smaller budget, get a cheap in-ears, super good, super budget friendly, and you'll be good.
Yeah, take care of them, man. I mean, when I go and sit down at the caster booth, and it's Henry G has the absolute worst ears ever. The headphones will be on the desk, and I can hear them as if it's speakers blasting the headphones when I go and sit down. So his headphone volume is maxed out. Anders is maxed out. Mine's is halfway through. It's it's something that, and also every time you get tinnitus, that's you losing a little bit of hearing. That's not an old wives' tale, right? If you
I'm not sure anymore.
The
old wives E type.
Yes.
High frequency pitch.
Yes. Yeah. So if you hear that, that's you losing a frequency or something.
I'll just
for the
say
rest
this:
of your life. I don't.
You
know
have good ears, because I remember I think we would swap out, or was I in your?
I
seat,
have
or
good.
was
I
it
have pretty
Scrawny's?
good.
Was it in Scrawny's seat or your seat? For
Scrawny's are
bass?
even better than mine. I'll say his volume's lower.
I think I might have been in Scrawny's seat actually, and Scrawny's, he would turn mine down every day, and I felt like mine was pretty reasonable, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
Also a symptom of who goes to the most shows. That's for sure.
go to the most music shows.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I wear earplugs now. That's something tangent, but people should just invest in earplugs if you're going to music shows once a week or something like that.
Okay.
You can even get partially reducing earbuds for concerts now. I think I saw where they dampen the sound, but they don't completely.
You can hear everything perfectly.
I wear those.
Yeah.
I wear those for every show. Yeah, I've gone through a couple different brands. Yeah, they can come to my stream if they want to know what those are, because this is not what we're talking about here.
There is it's something from chat. There is tinnitus that is caused by stress as well, and gets better or worse depending on your stress level. Okay. Interesting.
That's based.
Yeah, that is based.
That's just based information.
Yeah.
Remember, I can't verify it at all.
Yeah, true. I can't verify it, but I will listen to that.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly. That's what based is nowadays.
Yeah. Okay. Giveaway is closed in 10 seconds, so spam away, and then it's going to be locked up, and then we're going to move on to the what's most important about the last three things on the tier list or choices between monitor, GPU, and CPU. Okay, this should be an interesting place to end the live stream, and I think we should start with monitor. Okay, monitor is a really cool thing to talk about because the steps and progression for monitors has been very interesting. I think for a lot of us who, the human eye can't see 144 hertz into now we're on 500 hertz, and people are still seeing that there are some benefits. I personally have tried up to 360 hertz, and I've actually seen the benefits. I am getting to the point though where I say it's a little too fast for me. Okay, I kind of want it on the pistol round, but after that, I'm pretty good with 240. My monitor overclocks to 70. I keep it at 240. So that's a sweet spot for me at 33 in terms of years. I think monitors, I think you get a lot of the same panels. Okay, I'll just say this. Most panels are made by Samsung or one or two producers in the world. You get different advantages from your monitor stand. You get different advantages from the UI, the special settings like DIAC, for example. So Maui, again, we'll start with you. What is the most important thing of a good monitor? What's the most important feature of a good monitor?
Ooh, I think I kind of see it from the competitive standpoint here, because I think that there's a lot of great monitors on the market right now. Anything that hits 240 hertz or better, I'd say is just fine for me. But for what I would care about if I were looking to compete is something that's kind of industry standard because you can't take a monitor with you. So you might as
Yeah.
well, in some ways, just use the monitor that's on the competitive circuit. And that's why I use the BenQ personally, just
Yep.
because they have it at every tournament. You can put in your settings like 1-to-1 for what you have at home. And so even though, yeah, I see you have an Ace, I've tried other monitors out. I think that they're all fantastic. So many are so good, but I just want one that I can replicate the settings wherever I'm at. So it's a little bit less of a discussion for me in terms of like what's the fundamental characteristic other than just simply can it hit 240 hertz, because I actually don't use most of the other stuff. I use a little bit of the black equalizer stuff on BenQ,
Mhm.
but I actually turn Diac off. I don't like how it looks personally.
Really,
So yeah,
I
so
like
I'm
it
not
a
a
lot
fan
actually
of it.
in CS:GO.
Yeah,
In
I don't know.
desktop, it looks horrible, but in games, I actually like it a lot.
I think
It's a
when-
popular setting, but I actually don't like it either. I don't know why.
when I'm tracking people, I feel like my eyes are like, it's like there's like a flicker, a very, very light flicker
Yeah.
that I notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a blur. Sort
Yeah.
of,
I'm not a fan of it, but yeah, I mean, that's why I would just say for other people at home, just if it's, can you compete with it? And you're not going to bring your monitor everywhere.
I
Semphis,
think Robs does this as
Oh, yeah.
well. He uses the 240 hertz version of his Zowie monitor because on the events they don't have the 360 version yet. So he just downclocks. Yeah, I think Robs told me this. Robs or Twist, one of those guys. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's one thing actually about the like ace zones at on LAN. People using IEMs because they're not sure if you're going to get ace zones at every single event and at home. So why would you get used to headphone audio when you're going to use your IEMs and you carry those with you everywhere, and so you get the same thing. And that's actually to their disadvantage in certain things. Like for example, in monitors, some people would like 27-inch monitors. Maui, you're using a 27-inch. I use a 27-inch. I think it's actually really nice, especially if you're going to play on native. 24-inch on native, everything's way too small. 27-inch on native, I think you're cheating a little bit. It's actually pretty good. Semphis, are you on 24, 27?
I'm on 24. I always just stuck with the, normal LAN monitors or whatever. For me, I do not own a 360 hertz monitor. I've played a little bit with them on LANs and stuff. Maybe if I played longer, I could notice more. But talking with people, it seems like 240 is good enough. 360 might be slightly better, but I don't think you're going to get like if you have other things to upgrade, I would upgrade those first before going to 360. It would be more near the end of my list. Although, if you're on a 60 hertz monitor, I would definitely spend the money to get a 144 or 240, like guaranteed, like get off 60 as fast as humanly possible if you can. Even then, like Zaiwu, he went pro on 144 when 240 was the norm. So it's not like you can always be amazing without perfect peripherals, but you don't want terrible, right? Like you're probably not going to be great on 60 hertz, but you could be great on 144, and then 240 is kind of just like a bonus. For me, I really like black equalizer, just because I have bad eyes. Like I had eye surgery on my left eye here, so it's really handy to just brighten it up. I like monitors that let me put the sharpness up. I know that's pretty common, but I notice a lot of pros and a lot of people actually use like sharpness like 5. I always max that. I don't really understand why people
actually turned mine up recently and it looks a lot better. Actually,
it's
I found
clearer,
I have an astigmatism and turning up sharpness like counters that. It's just unblurs it, honestly. It's really nice, yeah.
And then Diac is like kind of with you guys. I don't like it. I don't know if it's my eye or whatever, because I do have that condition, but I get headaches when I use Diac. It messes with my eyes, like almost like I go like cross-eyed a little bit. And then like it's easier for me to see for sure. Like everything's brighter on Diac. Like I actually like how it looks in game, but I just get headaches, so I can't use it, right? The new CS2 is kind of like how Diac looks on CS:GO to me. Like it just makes everything a little bit more vibrant, and I know this isn't what we're talking about, but CS2 I can see way better in. Like it's just so much easier for me. It's pretty awesome. Like
I don't use
for someone,
DV anymore.
Yeah, so and then for me it's just like 240 is good enough. Like is perfect. I would say like if you have a 240 hertz monitor, I think you're in a good spot. And then I mean all the monitors nowadays, if you got a new more state of the art monitor, I think you're fine for the most part. I don't know if you guys would agree. Like as long as you have one of the
I think so,
240s, like that used to be like you could have a 144 hertz monitor and one would be 1 ms or 2 ms, and then there'd be another brand that would be like an 8 ms, and that would be like a big deal. But I don't feel like that is common anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, monitors are very interesting frequency because you get like it's like going from 60 to 144 was one of the most incredible upgrades that we've experienced as game competitors, you know, since CRTs way back in the day. But when you go past that, you know, I think we were all surprised that 240 actually made a pretty substantial difference, and that 360 can even still make any difference, which it does. So yeah, what do you think about monitors, and you know, can you use sort of any of the good ones right now, frequency?
Well, the new ones are actually pretty good, especially the Zawi ones. Zawi, you know, since day one, the king, I mean, everyone can agree at this point, like the esports king, they make the best monitors, in my opinion, but they still use TN panels. And now here's the thing, TN panels are really fast, but their colors are like, as not as great, but you know, who cares anyway? I just want to have like a smooth gameplay. I want good and clear image. Even with the TN panel, you get this. Now, you can get an IPS monitor with 240 hertz features. I mean, you can still do that, but I will still go for the TN panel, which is faster. Now, when it comes down to refresh rate, I mean, we can all agree 240 hertz, I think, is the industry standard at this point. Everyone can push 240 hertz in CSGO. I think it's fairly easy, but if I could get a 360 hertz monitor, I've never tried, in my opinion. I've never played with it. So if I could get one, I would, to be honest. My Ryzen CPUs like can like handle the frames now. It's pretty good.
It's kind of insane, but it actually does mess you up at first. Like it's like you're rubbing butter on your eyeballs, in the sense that when people peek you, it's like they're in your room. Like it's kind of crazy, but it's a bit too much. I don't know. Like maybe you can, like, the human brain can register it, but it's not valuable to you because you can't react, you know, with your mouse fast enough. Anyways, like you're holding your angles a little bit wider than 360 will even grant you like any sort of, I don't know. I think 240 sort of maxes out. Some people probably, once you get to 360 and get used to it, I assume they probably say you couldn't go down. But we're getting up to 500, man. Who knows when this train stops?
It's out, actually. It's out.
Yeah.
Is it Asus? Who got the first one? Asus, Optimum Tech.
I saw Optimum do the review. I didn't see the brand though. Yeah.
Is it Asus?
I have a theory. Sorry, I have a theory that when the frames get a little bit higher for CS, and it becomes more of a standard for people to start using 4,000 to 8,000 hertz mice, then I think the 360 hertz monitors might be more beneficial once you kind of like combine everything together, like high frames, high mouse hertz, high monitor hertz. You're just gonna have like a really smooth and accurate aiming. Like I don't know if anything's gonna really beat that, but right now it's pretty hard to use 8,000 hertz on a mouse. Like it doesn't really work. It just glitches out, and like 4,000 is possible, but you still need a pretty beast comp to not get like stutters and stuff.
Well, the day, you know, when I have a son, I don't have one, but the day he asked me for a 5,000 hertz monitor, I'm going to give him the old man yelling at a cloud rant. You don't need that shit. You better get level 10 on 144. Then we talk. Okay. But here's the tier list for us with monitors. Also sort of all over the place. Frequency, you've got that up right under mouse, and then everyone else is just below that. So what's your holy grail monitor right now?
24. I think we have the same one as semphis. 2546K from Zawi, and it's so expensive, man. Like after all these years, like $500, and it's $500
like
for a reason.
I think.
Canadian.
I mean, it's $500. It's like the iPhones, man. They just never drop the price because you know they're good. So you know, if you want it, you know, they offer pretty good like value for the money. So that's why they don't drop their prices, you know, because they offer a premium product.
Right.
So it's pretty good. And in fact, I'll tell you this. The first time I played on a 240 hertz monitor, I got sick for like 2 days. I couldn't get used to it. It was hard for the beginning, but then, you know, the more you play, like the more comfortable you get. So that went away, thankfully.
And it's really going back that actually this hurts so much more. Like if you only played on 144, you wouldn't know. The grass is always greener, but you would have no idea. But once you go, you know, try that poisonous apple, then you get addicted.
It's time
to the
to
flavor,
get used to, actually.
So,
like in my opinion, of course.
All right. So next up, and the final of two categories here, GPUs. Okay, and I think that this should be maybe a point of contention, maybe something interesting. I think right now, of course, NVIDIA is sort of corner of the market in terms of what GPUs people are buying. There are some Radeon heads out there. Respect to you guys holding it down. No one's got settings for you, but you can find your own way. But in terms of GPUs, I think we're blessed to have like really great GPUs that have just constantly come out over the years. We have older GPUs that can run pretty well in today's world. Like I have another PC that has a 1080 Ti that I bought in 2018 that I guarantee would still run Counter-Strike extremely well right now. And I think we should be thankful for that. In terms of GPUs, are you thinking too much about which GPU you've got, Maui? Are you upgrading that first?
Not really. I mean, you can see that I have a pretty sweet GPU though. Like, I mean, I'm using a 4080, but I just got a new computer. I think before this, I was using something in the 2000 range. And so for Counter-Strike in particular, I don't think I think you're totally right that you could just get something that even is the Star Wars edition of a GPU. Which I have no idea what the hell that is, semphis, but you could just get something like that and it's probably going to work out just fine. I literally have no idea.
It has lightsaber RGB.
Yeah.
No, literally, it's red. It's got a lightsaber built into it, and it glows red. All right, so
Right.
I don't want to hear it.
God damn.
The main thing with GPUs is that at the end of the day, can it mine Bitcoins or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Do it, LP Kane. Frequency, what's your take on GPUs? Like, okay, none of us rate GPUs that highly. Should we?
Depends on the game, actually.
Okay.
CSGO, like CSGO doesn't really care, to be honest. But CS2, it cares about your GPU. So you need a good GPU, and even if you have like an older GPU, just try to overclock it a bit. If CSGO just doesn't cope, so keep the clock speeds up. And if you can afford the good GPU, I would still buy Nvidia. Like I'm a fanboy. Like I don't want to say it, but I like the company, so the products are very nice. And the 4070 Ti actually is very good as well. It's decently priced and it has like really low power consumption as well. Super good.
Interesting. Okay, so would you say that there is a better balance with CS2 between the load on your CPU and GPU, or is it more heavily towards GPU now? Or
oh yeah, I mean, new engine changed the game. To be honest, you can get more. It's the game in CS2. It's much smoother because of the new engine upgrade. It's super important. And now that CS2 can utilize the maximum capacity of your GPU, it's actually insane. Now in CSGO, your CPU was doing the hard carry. So if you had like a 3090 or a 4070 Ti, nothing would change. So good CPU always matters.
I went from like an 8700K CPU to like a 5800X, and I got like an extra 250 frames. Like it was like insane.
Yeah.
And I changed nothing else in my computer. Like it was just crazy.
that generation of AMD CPUs were insane.
Yeah. No, they're awesome. They still work. But I had a question for you, Frequency. You might know is like I read about this a while ago. It was like this might apply more to CS:GO than CS2, but it was like, let's say you have a 1080 in your computer and you get 400 frames, and then you put in like a 480, and let's say you get 450 frames. So it's like, yeah, you get a little bit more, but you're spending, you know, $1,000 for bare, like it's not, like from a frames perspective, it's not worth it. But is there something with how it renders frames smoothly that you get an increased like performance benefit, even though your frames aren't that higher from like the newer technology? Because what I read was like the way that it processes frames would be like quicker, even though the frames aren't that high. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So in games, for example, let's take CS2, okay? In theory, you need to offload the processing power to the GPU so your CPU can freely work on the game. So in CS2, you know, we have better graphics. That's why the GPU usage goes like 95. Like I get 96. Like even if I put my FPS max to like 500, 600, which the 5800X3D with a 3D chip is like very good. Works super good for CS2 guys. I highly recommend it. It works very well. So the new engine utilizes more of your GPU, apologies. And the better GPU you have, the better frames you're gonna get. But this does not apply in CS:GO because CS:GO uses like a 20-year-old engine. So it's completely different. Yeah.
Do you have, okay, so I guess while we're on the topic, this might be a good time for Frequency for you to, if you've got any tips related to GPU, based on all the stuff that you've heard and the people that you've helped right now with CS2, what are some things that you've noticed about CS2 that people could maybe take home to try to fiddle with, or you've found have actually had efficacy in changing how good the game feels, and stuff that maybe isn't important? You could point that out as well.
Yeah. So let's say you don't have a GPU and you want to buy one. You know, it always comes down to the budget you want to spend. So AMD is really good at offering price to performance, but Nvidia always like offered better products. So you got to spend more money if you want to buy an Nvidia product. It always comes down to your budgeting. Like personally, if I was on a limited budget, I would still go and buy a used Nvidia GPU rather than AMD one, but I'm just kind of biased. So if you want to try an AMD GPU, they're super good and super cheap as well. It depends on the model, of course. Some models are better than the other ones. And when it comes on CS2, since we're on the topic, both NVIDIA and AMD will perform just fine, guys. As long as it's a decent GPU, it's going to be like just fine. Get a good CPU. If your CPU is really good, and if your GPU is like kind of mediocre to like good, you'll be fine. You'll be completely fine. It's nothing really special. It always comes down to like the amount of money you want to spend on a piece of hardware.
Okay.
Basically,
if someone's going to upgrade for CS2, like say they're thinking about buying a new PC or upgrading, would you say it's smarter to save up like $1,000 to get a 4070 or 480, or is it fine going for like a 4060 or a 3060 for like half or less the price? Like, do you think it's worth saving for it?
Just for the GPU?
Yeah.
Well, what I would do is, if you want to buy something, save up, buy it once, and then forget about it. Just enjoy it. That's what I would do. That's my personal opinion.
So like it's worth it, but it's obviously a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean the 4070 Ti goes for like $750. I bought it for like $850, but the prices are going down gradually. So you can get a used one as well.
I've got another question for you, actually, Frequency, just because the CS2 thing is going to resonate with a lot of people. Do you have any opinion on the NVIDIA Reflex option? Because I've seen that in Valorant, it's a popular option that works properly and reduces latency. But for people in CSGO, in CS2, it's affecting their performance too much, so they aren't using it.
All right, so this is very weird because I don't really have any data to prove my point. So I'll tell you this. I've seen the things that people send me from Reddit and on my Twitter DMs. They say like, okay, if I put my Reflex on in CS2 at this build of CS2, my game will like crumble. And now that's not for everyone. That's like specific cases. So I personally use low latency mode on because I got used to it, but I can't tell you for sure, hey, this works the best now because of like these numbers and that number. So I'm not so sure about this. So we got to wait for the driver to come out since we don't have a CS2 driver. So we got to be patient on that. But if we had a driver for CS2, Reflex to on, super important, minimizes doesn't even have a render queue. So straight into processing, no more delays. Very good technology, guys, super good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, if it works for you, basically, I think then try it. But hopefully one day we can all use it and not have to wonder if it's working properly.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the talent tier list here to look at where GPUs land for each of us. And hopefully it's not too scathing. We do love our graphics cards just for Counter-Strike specifically. They may or may not be that important, but as Frequency mentioned in CS2, it might be time to go for a GPU upgrade and see some benefits from that.
Mine was based off of being off CS, like CSGO.
Yeah.
I would have it higher for other games.
And Maui has a 4070, so he doesn't care about GPUs. Yeah, and I would change mine now based on what Frequency has just said. So, all right. So our last category before we end this off today. It's been a wonderful talk with everybody. Let's talk about the brains of the operation. Okay, the thing that is giving your computer all the juice, that if it is working properly, everything else seems to be a little bit better, and that's your CPU. Something that in CSGO was king in terms of hardware upgrades inside your PC case because it just gave you pure frames. You would just upgrade it, you'd get hundreds of frames going to different generations. We saw near the end of CSGO when the 5900, 5800X line came out from AMD that it completely destroyed the game, and people are getting 1,000 frames, no problem. In CS2, it's probably a little bit more balanced. Frequency, let's start with you on this one. How important are processors for you, and what's the most important aspect of a good processor?
So when it comes down to CPUs, you care about the clock speeds and even the cores in some cases. The ideal is to get a high clock CPU, which has like 6 to 8 cores. I think 6 cores are the ideal for gaming. But as always, guys, it depends on the amount of money you want to spend. So let's say we're on a smaller budget. I would go for the 5800X 3D, which I got like 2 days ago. Works amazingly well for CS2, better than my 5950X, better than my 5900X. Very good CPU because he has the game cache. And PUBG and CSGO, or not CSGO, sorry, CS2 love the new game cache.
Wait, hold on. Sorry to interrupt you. You said that
Yeah.
going from a 5950X to a 5800,
Yeah, I downgraded basically. Yeah.
you downgraded and it's working better?
I couldn't play PUBG with the 5950X is a productivity CPU because it has 16 cores and it can like have all core overclocked like 4.6 or 4.7. You can achieve that, but when it comes down to PUBG, for example, the game would completely crumble. Like I couldn't play anything. If you hot drop on like school, it was like 40 FPS. But then when I got the 5800X 3D, as soon as I started hot dropping on this place, it was like 190 FPS, 200, no more like crashes, no more like input lag.
Is that because the single core speeds are higher? So it just like
because
helps?
of the game cache, because of the fast cache of the processor, yeah. And I got more FPS in CS2 as well, but I lost 100 in CSGO because
you can overclock shader cache in BIOS. I've done that before. It actually can get you more frames.
What do you mean it's in the CPU?
Yeah, in the BIOS, you can like overclock your shader cache.
You mean the cores?
Shadow cache in your, you can change that in your NVIDIA control panel, right?
You can do that too, but in your maybe not every BIOS, but I remember I overclocked it before, and it gave me a little bit.
You mean probably the ring ratio for like the Intel processors? Now, when it comes down to when it comes down to AMD, for example, the 5800X 3D, it won't boost that high because it has the 3D cores, the 3D cache cores. Super good CPU.
Oh.
But in CSGO, I lost like 120 FPS because CSGO likes high clock speeds. You know, the CPU I have now doesn't have like high clock speed. So, you know, it's a bit of trade-off, but CSGO is dying, unfortunately. So,
yeah, tomorrow it's going to die, and we're all going to say our eulogies then. But I don't know what's more surprising about that: the fact that you downgraded from a 5950, or that people still play
Depends.
PUBG.
Well, so here's the thing now. The 5950X is a good CPU for like After Effects or Premiere. It plays games, but like PUBG just can't, man. The game is just trash anyway, but I mean, come on, just keeping it real now.
Yeah, Maui, you've got a beefy one actually on the Intel side, and that's is that not just like mine was like a 9700, I think, that I had in 2019. So that number is just looking insane to me right now. What's your performance like in CS2 with that?
CS2, I haven't really done any kind of benchmark tests. I think my frames in CS though will be like 600 or something. I don't know. It's really,
that's pretty good.
It's really high, like really, really high. So
okay, so do you have any problems
for all your porn tabs that are open?
I limit my frames though to 444. I just always do that. So I do FPS max 444 just so that it's stable performance though.
Good. Smart choice.
It's the Hawaiian anarchist numbers.
Yeah, actually, I'm not signaling anything by saying that, by the way.
Okay, so do you have anything like, how are your guys' CS2s feeling right now? Like in terms of, have you experienced the laggy CS2 that feels wrong? And then have you experienced the CS2 that feels great? That actually feels just literally like CSGO, like you're DMing and you forget which game you're playing? Because I've experienced both.
I don't really ever feel like it's CSGO because the spray doesn't always feel like I'm registering correctly. But that's not really like what you're talking about. If in terms of like flying around the map and everything,
mostly moving, yeah.
Flying around the map can feel generally better now than it did a couple months ago in this game, and I don't think there's too many hitches with my setup, but I have a pretty good setup, so I'm pretty blessed for that.
Corey, how about you?
For CS2?
Yeah, how's it feeling?
I've honestly been watching more than been playing because of coaching stuff.
Yeah.
And we actually have recently started playing CS2 scrims for people that we can get them first.
Whoa,
and kind of we've kind of been like half and half a little bit. We play a couple CSGO scrims here or there when we can't get CS2, but we're kind of banking on it coming out. So we're just like we're not going all in, but we're definitely putting our eggs in the CS2 basket a little bit more, trying to get ready for it, trying to come up with some plays, like throw nades and smokes and have them get kind of like show up, and then you have a person waiting there to check if anyone's there. So we're testing things basically. So I'm seeing more of like them playing than me playing, but the game definitely seems a little rough with certain aspects, like some of the registration can seem a little weird with
the animations are so off, man.
Yeah, the animations, the Molotovs are a little bit weird. Maybe it's just like getting used to it, but they look super weird to me when I see. I like the smokes personally. I think it'll be interesting to see how these changes happen, and I'm kind of just expecting CS2 to go through like a bunch of changes the next 6 months before it's kind of like solidified a bit more. Death matching though, I feel like tapping is stronger. I don't know if you guys agree. Like,
I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely agree.
It just so for me, I actually like it more. Like, I'm more of a tapper than a sprayer, so I like it more. But again, I don't have enough hours to really give like a super solid. Like, I haven't been like scrimming it or anything like that. Just watching and deathmatch a little bit. And
yeah, I think when you play against good players, that's when you really feel how unfair it feels sometimes with the peaking and with the animation discrepancies and stuff. Because I think from what I understand, the game's registration is probably better than CS:GO right now, but it doesn't feel like it because the animations are not giving you the feedback at the right times. The spray looks wrong, even though your bullets are going in a different spot and are right. So it's like impossible to trace. But yeah, the feeling of fairness, I think, is really missing on top of a little bit of lack of optimization. But I think in like a year from now, we're going to look back and be like, whoa, CS:GO.
The same
that
thing
shit
was
is so...
the same thing happened in the start of CS:GO. The peakers advantage was insane.
Yeah.
Like it was like I'll just do an easy example. If you're first orange on Inferno and you're a CT and you're hiding there and a T peeked into you, you literally could not kill them. Like if you were hiding tucked and they peeked into you, you would have 0% chance unless you just shot and got lucky. Whereas like then they changed the peakers advantage from 60 MS to 30, and then it became a lot more like bearable. Obviously, there's still an advantage on the right eye peaks and stuff like that, but it became a lot more fair. So I feel like once they tweak these netcode things a little bit, I don't know. Like, do you guys understand how the netcode works? Like maybe frequency, like with the changes they've made with.
Honestly, I don't think anyone really knows.
Well, a lot of people are pretending.
Like really smart in the
like,
community.
are they going off of like kind of like the zero ping mods that like Unreal Tournament stuff had back in the day, where it's like more client side? Because I always find that those mods are really awesome when everyone pings fairly low, but once you got one guy with 120 ping and one guy with 5, it just breaks the game. Like it doesn't work anymore. Like, you die behind walls or behind pillars, and just you get frustrated because you're like, on my screen you're like you're safe and then you just die, and like it's like, is it worth it? I don't know.
Hit registration in CS2 feels like way better, but as soon as you start spraying, then it's game over. If you don't connect the first 2 bullets, then just like throw your gun away and just leave. Like, you're not gonna connect the spray. It's so hard. Like, it's day and night with CS:GO. It's like it's a completely different game, but but still, a lot of work to be done by the team. Pretty positive. I think everyone is at this point. So
we're CS2 optimists in here, I think. But we've got let's go ahead and check the tier list for CPUs, because we're going to throw that in right now. I've got it in S tier. So is frequency. Maui with the Intel 10 million CPU puts it in D tier. Not surprised. The 4080 and the Intel 10 million. Okay, semphis. That's I think a more wise play. The only hard disagreement for me here is just Maui and CPU right now. What the hell is going on, Maui?
I mean, I guess I undervalue how much of a difference it makes. Like, I'm not one for the pleb. I'm not one for the people. Okay, I'm living in my own fantasy.
We're asking a billionaire how important money is, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not really sure what's going on if I even downgrade, and I don't want to know.
That doesn't even have anything in its A tier.
I mean, you have like the best CPU over here. So
Maui, nothing is kind of important in CS:GO. Okay. Well,
It's mouse or go home. Just give me a mouse.
Yeah,
And I
give
think
me
I
a
can frag.
mouse,
Little
that's
do
it.
I'm the guy that's like, I don't care what settings I have or anything like that when I have the beefiest shit. It's just give me a good mouse.
Yeah,
you
there's
know?
only two. There's only two computers Maui sits down at: is good or broken, and he doesn't sit down at broken PCs. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. So that's our entire tier list. This has been a long one. We got a lot of stuff, and now we're going to do another giveaway. Second pair of headphones. That's right. If you're in chat and you want to enter, type in giveaway in chat. No exclamation mark. Sorry about that. And you can enter for a second pair of ASO and Aspires to give away. Thanks for joining us and sticking around. And the discussion in chat has been fantastic to listen to, and everybody on the show has contributed some really cool stuff. Because we've all been around for so long, so many different perspectives coming together. This is sort of what like a Discord or a TeamSpeak conversation would be like between us, even if we weren't streaming. That's how you know it's good. So after we do this giveaway, then we can do some final thoughts. If you've got questions in the chat, if there's anything at the brim or questions that you guys want to ask Frequency or questions you want to ask each other relating to CS2, which maybe I'll ask this question. Who thinks CS2 is coming out tomorrow? And who thinks it's going to be some like full open beta release tomorrow? Because I think the whole motherfucking game is coming out tomorrow. And I would put money on it because they did the bait tweet, and I don't think they would fuck with us unless the whole thing, they were going to rip the Band-Aid off. I don't think they care about esports. They're just going to put the shit out, and we're going to play ESL Pro League playoffs on CS2, baby.
I think it's the real thing coming out. CS2 is coming out tomorrow for sure, but I don't think that. I mean, Pro League it's down to that vote, they said, and I don't think a lot of players are gonna like this. Why not just send off the game with 3 more days or 4 more days of CS:GO, and then Sydney will be CS2, and the Australians can have it down under.
The question is it going to be possible because of this like app ID switch?
It said actually in the Dust 2 article, at least it said that Valve is letting them have some kind of workaround to play CS:GO for the rest of the tournament.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
that was actually what was confusing for our team, was because we qualified for Thunder Pick and we got a couple other things that we're going to, and we're like, are we playing CS:GO or CS2 at this event? Like, we don't even know. And then we're like, because like obviously even if Thunder Pick wanted to play CS:GO, if Valve just forces you to CS2, it's like, all right, I guess we're playing CS2, which we're fine with either, to be honest. It's just like not knowing is worse actually in this case.
40 seconds left for the giveaway. Sorry, go ahead.
Too early for CS2, in my opinion, for competitive play. I think anyone would agree, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
It's just too early.
Yeah,
I mean, you go close to your teammate and then you get thrown into like all sorts of directions. Like it's like rubber banding. It's you have like frame drops. It's like I don't think it's playable at this point for competitive use, of course.
Okay, so if each of you get one thing that you can change, you're allowed to say it here, and then Valve have to change it for CS2. What's it going to be, Maui? One change.
Oh, okay. I need 1 second for this. What do I want them to change?
I can start.
Okay, yeah, you start.
CL Bob 5. I don't even give a shit about the interb. Just give me Bob 5 back.
Oh, yeah.
Free Bob. I'm tired of this fucking bouncy spaghetti legs bouncing around view model.
Yeah.
I don't want this goofiness, man. It feels like I'm playing Source for the first time. Those are some of the worst days of gaming of my life. It made me quit in the first place. So let's free Bob.
What would I mean beyond that? Invasive anti-cheat. Okay, done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Give him the
That's
kernels.
hard. That's hard.
Give him that
man.
ring. Give Maui
Yeah,
a
ring
job.
0. Ring 0.
Ring 0, I mean.
Yeah.
Dude, a good anti-cheat is so important, man. Like honestly, if they want to make matchmaking leaderboards relevant, they gotta do something. I mean, like,
okay, actually, I could roll it back. If I could do anything, make this AI anti-cheat that they've been kind of teasing actually
Backnet?
work. Yeah, whatever the
Machine
backnet
learning
thing,
one,
the
yeah.
machine learning one that's gonna be able to catch cheaters without being invasive. That's the big. If they can do that, then obviously, if it doesn't need to be invasive, that's even better. So just a god tier anti-cheat. That's what I want.
Invade Maui, Valve. Okay, Frequency. What
Hopefully,
is the one change?
Hopefully, proper servers. For the love of God, it's time to call it quits with the 60-40 crap. Get us proper servers. I mean, anyone
You're not
will
getting that
agree
one,
on
bud.
You're not getting that one.
I know.
I know I
can
promised,
wish.
but
I mean, more players to face it, I guess. I don't really know, but yeah, it's certainly fair servers. Yeah.
well, Face It aren't going to be allowed to use 128 if that's what you mean.
You sure?
I think they're locking it.
They like coded it out of the game.
Yeah.
They're like, no.
I
think they locked the architecture, so FACEIT can't use it now. I think they didn't want them to. I think it was as soon as they realized that the smokes do land in different places on different ticks, they instantly locked the architecture for FACEIT as well, so they can't use 128.
So they use the same thing as Valve now?
Well, they still might have better servers, but they're 64 tick sub tick.
Didn't know about this actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that'll change since the game's not fully released. There's still time, Valve. If you want to change your mind. All right, we're going to bring up a question that we've got from the chat. Is it smart to upgrade from NVIDIA Star Wars Sith Edition to potentially NVIDIA Lord of the Rings Return of the King Edition? It's a question from Mo Stacks. I can't help but feel like this one's targeted, Semphis.
I don't know. I don't know about that video card. I would get the Sauron edition. That's the really important. So it glows red.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's a fun question to end on, guys. Any final thoughts? Anything that's you've just been waiting for me to ask you that I didn't ask you? Any comments about CPUs, GPUs, different peripherals, general closing statements about CS2? What you got? Maui hot takes? Anything?
That I don't. I mean, I was thinking like the one thing about monitors and hurt rates is that I don't know how the 240 to 360. It does feel lightly better, and I just want to end with this. Like, I don't think it ever needs to go to 500. I don't think there's ever going to be a reason for that. I'll just say that. That's my closing statement. We don't need 500.
We don't need 500.
Probably didn't need to go to the moon either, but we did.
Or did we?
Let's
start spiraling.
Could have just gone to Arizona if you wanted to dust. Okay. Semphis, you got anything?
Just like a general thing for people listening to this that, like, obviously we hyped up a bunch of good gear and good peripherals, that just because you don't have perfect gear doesn't mean you can't be a good player. You know, like, don't overthink these things. You know, if you can't afford, you're young, you don't have the budget for it, maybe your country, I know different countries can be harder to get newer gear, or you have huge tariffs on video cards and stuff. It can be harder to get those things. Just keep focusing on getting better, and like, once you make it to a higher level, those things will be given to you for free a lot of the time, or you'll be helped to get those things. Because I just think so many people, they like to have like a cop out. It's the same with the gym, you know, like people be like, oh, I don't have genetics. It's like, you don't know what the fuck you have until you actually try and commit 100%. So if you're not committing to practicing, death matching, watching demos, you know, watching tournaments, listening to, you know, YouTube videos of Kerrigan and stuff, and you're not doing all of the things that you should be doing, and you think that, you know, upgrading your mouse is the key, that's incorrect. So just make sure that you're doing everything right, and when you can upgrade, do it. But, you know, there's a lot of good players that have been, you know, top players with not perfect gear, with lower frames or old EC2As, or, you know, mouse pads that are 10 years old.
Yeah,
so
I'll just add on to that super quick. Like, I mean, I got to ESCA intermediate with a laptop that was getting 80 frames per second, and I was playing over the last couple of years, still maintaining level 10 FACEIT with a laptop. Like, it's not like you can still be really good without having the computer that I have now.
Yeah, of course, you are talking to God-given talents here in Semphis and Maui Snake, but a less charitable interpretation would be your gear isn't why you're bad. All right, so just remember that. Frequency, any closing thoughts?
Do the best with what you have, boys. That's my take. Do the best with what you have. I mean, times will get better. Just save up. If you think you can get better with a mouse and your frames are good, just get a better mouse. You can always mess around and find out the proper way of saying it.
I can piggyback off that and say, as my closing statement, you'll always know what your bottleneck is. I think as you start to climb the ranks and get a bit better, you'll see where you're having some problems. Like, oh, the games are getting harder. I can't do micro adjustments. Maybe I need a better mouse or the right mouse shape. Maybe you are playing KZ, you want a better keyboard. Maybe you are dying in ways your teammates are calling out and you never know why. It's your headphones. Maybe it has something to do with how fast you can react to something on an angle. You want a better monitor. But as everyone's saying here, as you start to improve in skill, you'll start to notice where your bottlenecks are, and then maybe you want to invest. And, you know, Counter-Strike is a game that spends all your money, and it's kind of fun as well, right? Because you don't have people, you know, playing on speakers with the quinceanera in the background on a laptop playing Dota. You know, in Counter-Strike, people actually have good gear, and it actually helps you be a better player. But, you know, try to pay attention to what works for you and what you need to improve. And on that note, thank you again for joining us in the chat. Enjoy the headphones.
I got one more thing if we got time. If you know nothing about a player You know nothing about them. They're anything. They just, they got like $200 to buy a mouse. In my opinion, if I know nothing, I say G Pro and EC2 are the safest bets. If you can't try, you know nothing. What would you guys say is your top, you don't know anything, one ergonomic, one ambi, what would you suggest someone to get if they have no idea?
I would literally say the same thing, actually.
G Pro super light for everybody.
Yeah, I have like
Seriously.
4 super lights in my apartment. I'm using an EC2 right now. These are tried and true traits, good for ergo, good for ambi, great sensors, solid shape overall, good weight. Frequency, you got different ones?
I have plenty of Logitech mice, but as soon as I started playing with the one, I got hooked to it. So I didn't want to spend any more money into like fiddling with more like different mice brands or shapes. Just buy one, play it for like 1 to 2 months, and if you still can don't feel confident, just sell it and get another one. But just don't sell it that
Throw it
quick,
against the wall, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that, but just don't destroy it that quick. Just play with it for like 1 or 2 months, and then just think about your other options. Don't change hardware that quick.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and remember, you always have enough money for a Deagle. Take care, everybody.
That's true.